Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. I am your host, Jess Dewell. Thanks for listening. The right mindset right now is important. And that sounds overly simplified and very large all at the same time. And you'll hear in the conversation, it actually is, because we need a different mindset for a different task, for a different goal, for a different objective that we find ourselves faced with, and most importantly, choose. So with me today is a panel of two gentlemen that are filled with wisdom and immediately useful information that I know that you will take something away to add to the mindset that you are working on right now. Joining us is Jim Barnish Jr., who is a strategic change leader with over 10 years of global, focused, and integrated experience, owning as well as developing teams in nearly all functional areas. And now he guides organizations in an effort to reinvent themselves. Benjamin Brown is a best-selling author, keynote, and CEO of 360 Sales Consulting with over 20 years background in sales and sales management. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
Okay, so Ben, how do we cultivate a mindset that we want?
Well, cultivating a mindset comes from different things. It also deals mainly with your past experiences and how you learn. Some people learn through visuals. Some people learn through acting it out themselves or trial and error. And so when you come from different backgrounds, that's why when you teach people things, it is important to learn how to teach it these different variables on how people learn. Like I said, when I do my coaching, some people are more auditory. Some people can learn by just reading. It just depends on how they actually being able to digest their information, not just read it. Because some people just read it, and then you want to be able to digest it. So when I do my coaching, most of the time, people can understand when I do sales coaching that it is a skill, and that skill can only be learned if you can digest it and practice it. It's just like if you want to be a welder, you just can't learn from a book. You have normally what's called an apprentice program where you follow the other person over a period of time till you understand how they do it, and then you can encompass it yourself. So when it comes to mindset, it's like, how do you want to have a positive mindset? Coaches are really good at this as far as getting things that they need from each one of their players. There's a talent that each person have, and the job of a coach is to make sure they get the most that they possibly can out of each person. So same thing for a sales manager in a business situation. So there are philosophies out there. If you know, one of the most in basketball is Phil Jackson, who got a lot from his players using his Zen type philosophy of, creating and getting the best out of each player, which one of the best was Michael Jackson, and having these theories. And also he always has sayings and things that you use to get the most out of that person. So a mindset, when you develop a mindset, you want to go and gravitate toward the things that you can digest or the people that you can actually exemplify, to use those examples, because everybody's different. And each mindset will have the same goal, but it's a different way to reach it. So we have to figure out the trial and error of who do we exemplify, what materials we read, and also, depending on the outgoing of that mindset, is how to practice it so that we can use it, because I think it takes a little tweaking to get to the perfect mindset, which is the ultimate goal. And I think there's no such thing as perfect. You always can continue to work on yourself no matter what age you are. So these are the things that you're looking at as far as developing mindset, is putting together a program or a criteria that you can use to continue to grow over a period of time.
Thank you, Ben. All right. And Jim, how do we cultivate the mindset that we want?
Yeah, that's a great question. Broad and great. There's a number of ways for us to view mindset, right? It could be personal or business, a growth mindset, innovation mindset, success mindset. The list goes on and on. I think to me, there's three main core components of that, no matter what: strategy, process, and measurable outcomes. So on think strategy, setting a goal is one thing, and developing the right procedures and strategies to achieve it versus actually achieving it successfully is a completely different thing. The first step is always dividing your goal into small segments that can be manageable, and then scheduling activities and outcomes using a strategic plan, which will help guarantee its success. With process, you figure out, do we want to pursue this? Does it align with our purpose? Can we execute it? Does it align with our core competencies? And so on and so on. And then, of course, is it the right time right now? And finally, on measurable outcomes, focusing on outcomes versus output is such a focus that I've been working on with my business, especially in this age that we've coined on rapid innovation. The rate of today's technology change, right? The age of rapid innovation, if you will, where every product is essentially a technology product today. And focusing on those outcomes instead of getting caught in the activity trap, what gets measured versus what gets done, is a core component of succeeding in that age.
Okay, we've got a gamut here, and we're gonna pick and choose and talk and discuss. And while I'm gonna have some questions and some comments along the way, I want you guys to voice your questions and your comments along the way too for this discussion part of the program. And what I hear you both saying is, whatever we have in mind, as we're solidifying it, we've got to get it out of theory and get it into action. And for somebody who likes theory, and for somebody who likes to learn, or somebody who might be a little timid and or somebody else might be a perfectionist, there's always that resistance or that pause before action occurs. And that pause might be a second. It also might be months. It also might be years. And so when we're dealing with that particular piece, thinking about mindset, how do we make the shift from the theory and the preparation and whatever we've been thinking about to actually start doing it, to practice and improve those skills and see something that we can modify?
You want me to start with that?
Sure.
It is your belief system. So when I work with people in sales, they believe, like you do, when I tell people that the reason a lot of people are afraid of sales is because we live in Western civilization. And as in children, we learn to sell from the day that we're born, but we stop selling is because we're in a Western civilization. Everything has a price on it. So you don't have to sell. You just have to make money. Whereas other countries negotiate everything. So most of the people have a fear or a different mindset when it comes to sales. So when I work with individuals, most of the time it is trying to change that mindset that you can do it, right? And most of the time it's taking the baby steps in that belief system, because 60% of sales that I say is confidence, right? I don't care what theory you have, but you have to go through those steps or a process in order to be successful in sales. So in the beginning, with most of the people that haven't done sales or done it successfully, I don't even go into the steps first. The main thing I do work with is the mindset of changing that shift, getting those baby wins to understand that you can do it. Because when you look at it as a whole, it looks like a huge mountain, right? But you chip it off a little bit at a time, and you're like that little train, I think I can, I think I can. And people will get into that and start going to the next level. Now, the key here is that you get those little wins where people start seeing success. So when I work with a number of businesses and I realize in some people that they don't even ask for the close or ask for the credit card. So that's something small. Just making a statement saying, what card do you want to put it on, and asking for the sale will slowly change that mindset. And I have students that come back to me and say, it actually worked. And that's what I love when I hear. That lets me know that the mind shift is changing. Sometimes it takes, a couple of days, some for people weeks, some people it takes months to understand that you actually can do it. So once you started getting those baby steps and accomplishments a little bit at a time, that's when the big action start happening, because that's when the work actually can be done because they believe in it.
What would you add, Jim?
Yeah, so I think Ben makes some really good points there. The only thing that I would add is that everything Ben discussed is completely applicable to all business units too, right? Sales is a very important engine that drives everything, but ultimately we're all visual creatures, and ultimately we are all storytellers at heart. As Ben mentioned, we grow up telling stories. We grow up in some sort of a pitch atmosphere. And I think if you break it down into the fundamentals of a subject, a goal, an audience, the before and after, and then whatever's in between, and where you want the audience to get to from an outcome perspective, it can be what you deliver in any conversation around storytelling, whether it's a client or whether it's just your neighbor, right? It's all about getting to those outcomes that Ben brought up as well.
So Jim, talk to me about confidence. Do you, as you were building your business and making the decision to go into business for yourself, looking back, or maybe your first job, whatever comes to mind for you, did you have a lack of confidence that it was required that you needed to overcome to go get what you wanted, that kept you on the path to get you where you are right now?
I would say there's absolutely an aspect of that. I definitely failed a lot along the way, right? I think there's been, I wouldn't say I'm in the later half of my career yet, but there's probably already been 20 pivots that have gone through between career changes and startup success or lack thereof. And I think that confidence is a huge piece, but also having the people that help you prepare to the conversations that you're going to have, mentoring conversations, right? Coaching conversations. That's a lot of where you get your confidence from. You are naturally born with a set of soft skills, of course, but developing those and treating those in a completely different manner for the preparation of any obstacle that you get to. I think it's a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Ben? Is there a situation that comes to mind where you lacked confidence and you were able to overcome it?
Well, I could start as a young child, but when I graduated high school and I decided to join not just a regular military force, I joined the United States Marine Corps. You're talking about a confidence builder there, and understanding that, can I do this? Be the few, the proud. And when you go to boot camp and you put your foot on those yellow footprints and you get screamed at the first time, your confidence gets about this big. And the job of the Marine Corps is actually to break you down and then to build you back up. So that is the purpose of them, the way that they want you to be. To actually do that job, they do a very good job at it. Same thing in business is that when you bring on employees, the indoctrinate, how you bring them into your company to are they able to do the job? Are they going to get paid the way they want to get paid to stay? Because the longevity is the key point of any company for any employee, right? So confidence, and I said that earlier, and same thing in sales, is 60% of sales is confidence. I have people that know every technique in the book, but you have to have the confidence to apply it, right? So there can be no fear in rejection when it comes to sales, which is most people's crutch, because they fear that they're going to get rejected. And we all have that as humans. That rejection feeling is not to take it personal when it comes to business. So same thing as an entrepreneur. I think Jim can contest to this. We knew how many times we were going to fail in doing entrepreneurship. I don't know if I might be at the post office, but you just keep going every day. The failures become, like a frog, the way it rolls off the back, and you just keep moving because that's part of the job that you take on as an entrepreneur is going through those failures. So your confidence level will always be tested. And we all take hits, even the big boys, when we're talking, no matter whether we're talking $10 or $10 million, mistakes is what this is all about. And failing fast is one of the things that we do. And the faster you fail, the better off you'll be. And it's a journey. It's no finish line when it comes to it. One story I had is I was at my accountant with my wife, and my wife was there, and she said, when are we ever going to be finished with the website? And the accountant looked at her and said, we're never finished with the website. It's an ongoing process. And I'm like, yes, that's what you sign up for. So a lot of people have to understand that when you become an entrepreneur.
Okay. There's so much in both of your answers that I think I want to start with the fact that we're never done, whether that's learning or a website or a relationship. I mean, and that includes a relationship not only with somebody else, like our significant others or a business partner, it's also with ourself. And I think even for men, and granted I am the token woman in this conversation, even for men, I feel like there's an element of, do we work on ourselves and our mental and emotional state as much as women say they do? And they do a lot of work there. I can speak from experience there. So I want to know, do you guys do self-love?
Jim?
Yeah. There's a lot in that question too, right? I think I try to. I think the definition of done is, it really depends on how you define it, right? What does done look like?
Right.
There's iterative cycles in whatever you do, whether you use some type of agile methodology or not, that helps you to continually improve while still getting something out to your audience, whether that's content or whether that's something different. Website, I think, is what Ben mentioned originally. There's done and then there's done. So I guess my answer is that you're never done with anything, because you always want to revisit stuff, but you also have to get things across the finish line to the point where you're 90% done, or you'll never get anything past the finish line. And I think that's one of my biggest things on the operations side, working with companies and even in my own life, whether it's in business or personal, is being able to accept non-perfection wherever you are, and realize that you can always come back to it, but let's get something else that you can get done 10 times as fast from 0 to 90 that you can this action that you've been mulling through in your head for the last few weeks, trying to get it from 90 to 100. Mm-hmm. And that's where the real value is continuing to produce.
Okay. Oh, I've got a couple of stories that come to mind. Do you want to share anything at this point?
Me?
Before. Well,
when it says working on yourself, say for example, this year I've done a couple of things. One of them is I picked up yoga. Mm-hmm. And then also I started reading more self-help and self-love. One of the things that I teach in my courses for sales is getting prepared. Right? You just don't jump into a sales pitch or anything of that nature. You must prepare for that, just like football and sports. Are you mentally able to do that? Because one of the major things you have to do is listen, which I'm learning to listen more, and do that every day. But yeah, working on yourself. And one of the things I do when I work with clients, we always get these calls of people that want to reach out and work with us, and they hear about us and they contact us and they're very eager, and you think to yourself, oh, this might be the next great client. But I stop myself, and one of my qualification questions is in the beginning is, are you prepared to start investing in yourself? And that question alone right there will tell me how much effort I'm going to actually put, because in the beginning I didn't do that, and I'll be talking to people for hours and pitching and trying to get them to believe in themselves. But investing in yourself is something else. And as you know, as entrepreneurs, if you're not growing, you're dead. And so one of the steps that I do for my qualification is making sure that they're ready to invest in themselves, not money-wise. Money is just something that we use to give them obligation. If you don't charge people nothing, they won't have any value of it. So I said, the reason I'm charging you money, you pay me because I want you to pay attention. Right? So the money aspect of it, if you've had the money and the value, you'll pay more attention. So the key here is being able to have them understand to invest in themselves and invest in yourself as you go through this journey of life and also in business.
It's funny. I like yoga too, and I like meditation too. I do heart math.
Me too.
while I meditate, because I'm very curious about the whole coherence piece of it. And I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to that kind of stuff. Beyond that, though, in addition to bubble baths and stuff like that, my favorite thing to do that actually not only nourishes my soul, but it actually feeds my curiosity is when I walk. There are times when I will walk and I will listen to podcasts. I am also a podcast junkie, and I listen to them twice the regular speed for two reasons. People hear me and sometimes I listen while I'm driving, and people get in my car and they're like, "You are kidding me. You listen to that fast? You get it?" And I'm like, I get what I need to get at that moment when they're going that fast. My attention is on something. The questions I've asked myself are in my head. My intention for wanting to learn is there. And then what bubbles up to the top is what fuels forward. So I may listen to the same podcast really fast first, and then I will go back and I will listen to it again, because it's like, oh, there was the answer to the question. I got it. I know it's in there. I feel it. I can experience that. I see it. Now, what can I learn from these people's experiences so I don't make the same mistakes? So I can learn from them, because the whole purpose of investing time in myself, of listening to this, in building my confidence of willing to say, man, I could be totally wrong about this, or recognizing I don't have any confidence yet around this, will help me shape what I need to do to be able to take that first action. And I remember I was 21. That was a long time ago, guys. Well, 21, my first meeting after my company was acquired, where I walked into a room, and I was 21, and just like you guys at 21, bigger than life, nothing can go wrong. It's all good. I have what I thought was confidence. Walked in, sat down at the table, and actually really looked around. And I had seen these people outside of this conference room for this meeting. Yet I'd never seen them all sitting around the table. Not only was I the only woman in the room at 21 years old, I was at least 30 years younger than the next oldest person in the room, making and participating in decision making, choosing actions, reporting in, talking about these things that were directing the flow of the company that I had become a part of. And at the moment I realized that, here I am sitting in this room, knowing what's going on, thinking, I've got this. And then self-doubt poured into the top of my head and through every ounce of my body. And I was like, am I sitting here playing dress up, pretending? Am I in my mom's clothes? Who are these guys? And what are they actually going to think of me being just me, doing what I do best? And I left that meeting flattened. And it was all my own doing. Don't get me wrong. It was all my own doing. I would call that a fairly large failure in my life. And if you think about it from this concept of not only investing in myself, but also this fail fast and fail and fail fast. The concept was, I was like, I was not as prepared as I needed to be for that. Now, was I prepared with numbers and content and contribution? Absolutely. But myself was not ready. And so there was work that I needed to do in that front. And I failed at my self-confidence in that moment. So going back and having those conversations and seeing what that was all about. And then of course, until we talk about something like this, I never think about it again, because that's not where I live, nor is it helpful to me now, because I learned what I needed to learn from it. So when we fail fast, how do we know we're failing and then we should finish the fall? And what do we need to take away so we're not failing fast at the same thing over and over and over again?
So I think you brought up a really core piece of it, which is self-conversation, right? One often doesn't think that the conversation one has with oneself is the most important that they'll have, but it is. I mean, honestly, that's probably one of the biggest things that separates a successful mindset from a non-successful one, in my opinion. Most people don't talk to themselves, not necessarily in the middle of an alley, right, at 2 a.m., but, talk to themselves in their daily routine. What can I do to achieve my goals? What do I want? How do I plan my time? And I think you mentioned something in regards to that ties perfectly into planning and failing or failing fast rather. And to me, that's being as iterative as you can, whether it's prototyping on the product side or technology side, or it's continuing to test things with your customers that helps you to find things out as quick as possible. I'm sure there's a number of other things that Henry yourself can come up with that add to that, but to me, that's really a big key to failing fast.
Well, what I have to say about that, I could use 3 different examples for it. When I started building my first website and working with individuals, you document basically what you're doing. You try to as much as possible to try not to make the same mistakes, because it's a waste of time, and time is what basically we have. So websites, key point is working with the right people, because people tell you things that they can do and they really can't do it. So it's not really your fault. It's just you making the decision to work with individuals and do it. So the second one is when I did my book, Master the Art of Closing the Sale. So writing a book is a daunting task if you've never done it before. There's things that I would never do again. And I know the right people or the people that can do them quicker. So failing fast based upon that is a good example. And one of the keys is what I do teach when it comes to sales. You're going to fail. I tell people that. You're going to fail when you start doing sales for the first time. It's just part of the game. That's why a lot of people won't do it. They hire somebody because they don't want the rejection. So the willingness to fail fast, and one of the key components that I do with my students is that they record their calls. So with the calls being recorded and having a mentor there with you, which I always remind people in business, always have some type of mentor, financial, business, or somebody who's done these mistakes or watching your mistakes and telling you what you're doing and documenting so you won't make them again, because you probably will. And having people around you that recognizes that you're making these mistakes and documenting them for you. So when it comes to calls, we'll listen to the calls and say, hey, you made this mistake. It's no big deal. It's part of what is learning growing about. When you first started walking, you fell down a number of times, but we're all walking, possibly, right? So it's part of life, is knowing that there's failures out there, but knowing, if I can't walk well, I'm not going down the stairs yet, right? So you're either going to learn from the pain, or somebody's going to tell you don't go down the stairs. So it's just the human nature part. And I think we forget about that a lot. And we don't take ourselves seriously enough of knowing what greatness that we can do. If we get, one of my favorite quotations I say is move and get out of your own way. So the main thing is moving, which is the purpose of a sales, get somebody to actually move. And then trying to get out of your own way is the key component to doing anything successful. Just start moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ben, you brought up
one of my cornerstones. Oh yeah, go for it, Jen.
If I hop in here just a second, okay. Ben, you brought up something at the very beginning of your comment right there around documenting whatever you're doing, and I think that's hugely important, especially in regards to data-driven type alternatives, right? Which is the most important thing in general in anything you do in the age of big data or artificial intelligence or any emerging technology, is having the data to back up your decisions. And by documenting a lot of that, especially if it relates to something that can be tracked, is so important in today's day and age.
Yes. And I'm enjoying the language that you guys are both using. And the reason I'm enjoying it is because I think we've got the bases covered here. We have, all right, there's data we can get. We're going to collect it. We're going to evaluate it. We're going to go forward. And then there's this concept of, hey, we've got this skill, or we've got this thing we want to accomplish, and we need to know what behaviors to take to get there. And then there's a third piece, which is, oh yeah, when we do this or we do that, the experience that we are remembering that is going to inform a favorable or an unfavorable view, right? I mean, that's, did we fail or did we succeed? Then how all the interplay is working together from those 3 pieces. You both have mentioned mentors, and I am a big believer in some sort of an accountability partner. I'm also a big fan of mentors. Can you share how you found and cultivate a relationship with your current one of your current mentors?
I can start with that. Main thing is that you have these what you call thought leaders that you have. Even though they've went through the path and they've made mistakes, it doesn't automatically mean that you have the ability to work with them, especially the higher ups, or that they're going to be able to help you, because we have that thing called chemistry. So what I tell people is to work or interview a number of different mentors. Just don't go based on recommendation. Interview them just like you would before, because these people are thought leaders. Some of them are gracious. Some of them you have to hassle to work with. Some of them you have to pay to work with. But make sure that you do the interview process to make sure that that's along the lines of what you want, because it might not be, because you didn't communicate it well. So an interview, if you were looking for mentors that's out there, like anything else, is, get 3 or 4 of them, talk to them, and then figure out what you want in the end and use that instead of just going with somebody just because they want to spend time with you.
Or they're fun to talk to.
Or they're cheap. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that addition. Exactly.
Sure.
Price does not mean anything when it comes to mentors.
Completely agree. Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is you pick someone who's a true partner, right? A trusted advisor, whatever language you want to use, someone who's relentless in the focus on whether they're a client, a mentor, advisor, in your success. And someone that's highly selective, only works with people and, so be it companies that they believe in. And that's what's really going to get the relationship to get to the next level, whether it's a mentor relationship or another.
Yeah, that's actually a function that I perform and offer. And that's, I like the answers that you both have shared, because that type of a relationship, you have to be able to be willing to bare your soul about what's going great in your personal life and what sucks in your personal life. Because even though we're talking about business here, when life outside of work is turbulent and uncertain, it affects how we view what's going on in our work and in our intention in that capacity. And the same is true with the financial side. So being able to talk with, we all have an accountant or a bookkeeper or somebody like that. That is not what I'm talking about. I was just saying this the other day. I said, there are some people who, even when things are going very poorly in their business and they haven't had any sales for a while, when they're in a cyclical business, that they start to get down on themselves because they're lacking sales, and they pretend it's all good, and they pretend they're not afraid of the fact that they have no money right now because it's the down part of their cyclical business cycle. And the mentor partner, the partnership, we need to be able to go to the person that we're trusting and we're choosing and say, I am really scared. I know this was going to come and it's still here and I can't get past it. Or maybe it's unexpected. Maybe there was something going on that was ignored in the business and all of a sudden sales were declining to a blind eye and now there's nothing, which also can happen. And so when that contraction is happening, who can we talk to? And can we talk to that person about those things in a very open and a very open and honest way, knowing that there will be no judgment and there may be no advice. There's just somebody to listen and go, yeah, that's hard. And most likely say, yeah, I've been there too. And so I think that that's a really important piece, is to be able to dig under that and connect more with our emotions around it. And you both said this in a variety of ways, be able to go, yeah, I understand that this is a place I could get in my own way, which, by the way, we are all guilty of that in some way. We get in our own way when it comes to being able to say, this is the truth about what's really going on. And I have no idea. I have no idea why yet. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And I think those things are really important to embrace, that we all, it doesn't matter how much experience we have or how old we are or how much we're learning or seeking knowledge, it's still going to happen to us. And that's why I think this conversation is really important. And I want to know from you guys, why is it bold to cultivate the right mindset right now?
I could start with that because every day is a new day. So if you don't have that mindset, basically you're going to be paying the price for that over a period of time, because you have to handle the ups and downs, if we're referring to entrepreneur or small business, of knowing that it's not going to be all glitz and glamour, and that there is no finish line unless you sell the company and walk away, or you get a buyout or things of that nature, which might be one of your goals. But the mindset is, and we have to change it and tweak it every once in a while based upon where you want to be. Because quite honestly, being an entrepreneur is one of the loneliest jobs, and solopreneur is one of the loneliest jobs in the world. Nobody knows how you feel. You really can't talk to other people unless you're in a mastermind group or things of that nature, because you're dealing with every type of situation all by yourself. And nobody's going to pity you for it either. So you're going to have to understand that nobody's going to feel sorry for you, and it's okay to fail. And it's okay to close the business and try again, because that's what it's all about. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, just to connect to that, I'll go back to something I think I said earlier in the program, which is, the age of rapid innovation, where every product is essentially, or service in general, needs to be a technology product. And the reason for that is the rate of technology change. We are going through a crazy age of rapid innovation where technology is at an exponential value compared to the way that people or companies change. And in order to keep up with that change, we need to fundamentally change the way that we act. We need to make decisions a lot quicker. We need to use data in every one of those decisions. We need to do an assessment at every point in that journey to make sure that we're still doing the right things. And we need to use technology in every aspect to make sure that we're facilitating that journey with the proper emerging technologies or just basic technologies. And ultimately, the goal is a path to value, whether that's path to internal value or a personal journey, or path to value and the greatest return for your business. And in that light, it looks like investing your resources in the areas that give you the most time or the most change and the most ROI. And I'm really passionate about how that technology journey helps to facilitate that, because we're going to need to learn to work a lot different and a lot faster.
It's interesting, now that we're at the end of this conversation, how we can see a different perspective and a different place in our roles, and the different experiences we have sought out shapes what we're looking at. And both Jim and Ben shared from their own perspective in their own industries, which were different from each other, how they are continuing to grow and model for others as well as to themselves what's possible. You can find all the program notes for The Right Mindset right now at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com/P118. That is voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 118. Make sure that you subscribe to the show and leave a comment. Tell us your story. What are you doing to cultivate the right mindset right now for yourself, for your team, and for the business that you lead and you lead within? Make sure and connect with me, Jess Dewell. I'm on Twitter at Jess_Dewell. You can also find me on Facebook and Google Plus and LinkedIn by searching Jessica Dewell. Share and add, share and add, share and add. We have a mindset. We want to continue learning. We want to continue growing. And the way to do that is to talk about it and is to direct other people to this program. We want to know from you how you make sure you have the right mindset right now.
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.